Commander Heather Mills stared at the message on her screen. She read it 3 times to make sure she understood correctly. Aliens, real aliens, had made contact with humanity, and they did not sound friendly. Admiral Harris needs to see this now, she said to her communications officer. Proxima Station hung in space like a metal star. It was the farthest human military outpost from Earth, guarding the edge of human space. 12 colonies on 8 worlds. That was the reach of humanity among the stars so far. Not much compared to what they had just discovered. The 17 alien species calling themselves the Galactic HFY control thousands of worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. To them, humans were barely worth noticing. Admiral John Harris frowned as he read the message. His weathered face looked even older under the harsh lights of the command center. "They're not even pretending to respect our borders," he said. "No, sir," Commander Mills replied. "They've already marked our colonies as pending integration. Like we don't have a choice." Harris stood up straight. "Well, we do have a choice, and I choose to fight if necessary." Within 24 hours, Earth's government received the full report. The aliens had stumbled upon one of humanity's scout ships near the edge of explored space. Instead of greeting them as equals, the hegemony ship had scanned the human vessel, sent this message about processing their territory for integration, and left. Dr. Alan Frost was eating dinner when his secure line buzzed. As Earth's top diplomatic negotiator, he knew a late call was never good news. "We need you in Geneva immediately," said the voice of the Secretary General. "First contact situation. It's not going well." The next morning, he sat in a room with military leaders and government officials. They showed him the message and explained what little they knew about the hegemony. "They'd given us 1 week to prepare for a diplomatic meeting at their border station," Admiral Harris explained through a video link. "We believe they plan to simply inform us of our new status as a protectorate, not to actually negotiate." Dr. Frost nodded slowly. "So they see us as primitive natives to be colonized." "Exactly," said General Linda Weber. "And based on the scan data they took from our scout ship, they think we're easy pickings. They don't know our real military strength." Captain Patricia Summers was assigned as military advisor to Dr. Frost. She was tall with short brown hair and eyes that missed nothing. Her service record included 3 deep space missions and combat experience putting down a rebellion on Mars colony. "The Determination is ready for departure," she told Dr. Frost as they walked toward the shuttle. "It's our newest diplomatic vessel, but don't let the name fool you. She's well armed." The ship was sleek and silver, built to impress as much as to function. As they boarded, Captain Summers lowered her voice. "Between us, Doctor, I've been briefed on our actual options. If negotiations fail, we have contingencies." Dr. Frost raised an eyebrow. "What kind of contingencies?" "Let's just say humanity has been preparing for this day longer than the public knows." As the Determination broke orbit and accelerated toward the jump point, Dr. Frost watched Earth shrink on the viewing screen. Beautiful blue and white, home to 10 billion humans who didn't yet know their world had changed forever. Captain Summers stood beside him. "Do you think we can convince them to leave us alone?" Dr. Frost sighed. "From what I understand about expanding empires throughout human history, they'd rarely listen to reason. But we have to try. And if they don't listen..." He turned to her with a grim smile. "Then we make them listen." Neither of them knew that the hegemony's diplomatic meeting was merely standard procedure before invasion, or that Earth had far more surprises waiting than the aliens could possibly imagine. Dr. Frost's first view of Hegemony Station CK7 left him speechless. The massive structure hung in space like a small moon, lights blinking across its surface in patterns that seemed almost alive. Beside him on the bridge of the Determination, Captain Summers let out a low whistle. "It must be at least 50 miles across," she said quietly. Their pilot guided the ship toward a docking bay that could have held 20 vessels their size. As they approached, other alien ships came into view. Some looked like giant insects, others like smooth river stones. all made the human ship look tiny and primitive. Remember, Dr. Frost said to his team, we represent all of humanity today. Stay calm no matter what we see or hear. The docking procedure took nearly an hour. When the airlock finally opened, they were met by creatures that looked almost human, except for their blue-tinted skin and eyes that were entirely black. I am Kreth, assistant to High Counselor Scythera, said one of them in perfect English. We have analyzed your language from your ship's databanks. Please follow me. They walked through corridors filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some floated in the air. Others slithered on the ground. Dr. Frost tried not to stare, but it was difficult. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they knew the answer, and it was overwhelming. The meeting chamber was enormous, with a circular table in the center. High Counselor Scythera was waiting for them. He was taller than the others of his kind, with elaborate markings on his face that Captain Summers guessed were signs of rank. Welcome, humans, Scythera said, not bothering to stand. Please be seated so we may begin the integration process. Dr. Frost stepped forward. High Counselor, we are here to establish diplomatic relations between our peoples. We hope to. Yes, Scythera interrupted, waving a blue hand dismissively. All new species say the same things. Let me be clear. Earth and its colonies will be absorbed as a protectorate of the hegemony. Your military will be disbanded. You will be granted observer status for 100 of your years, after which you may apply for limited membership. Captain Summers felt her face grow hot with anger, but she kept her expression neutral. Dr. Frost didn't miss a beat. That arrangement would not be acceptable to my government, he said calmly. We propose instead a mutual recognition treaty with defined borders and trade agreements. Scythera made a sound that might have been laughter. You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. We are informing you of your status. Our integration fleet is already moving toward your outer colonies. Dr. Frost maintained his composure. Then perhaps you misunderstand as well. Humanity will defend its sovereignty. The High Counselor looked amused. With what? Our scans of your vessel show technology centuries behind our own. You have barely mastered interstellar travel. Not all things can be learned from scans, Dr. Frost replied. The meeting continued for hours, but the position of the hegemony never changed. They expected Earth to surrender without a fight. As the human delegation was escorted back to their quarters to rest, a smaller alien approached them in a quiet corridor. I am Kirvex, he whispered, looking around nervously. You should know that the hegemony does this to all new species. Resistances. He paused, searching for the right word. Unwise. The last species that refused integration no longer exists. Captain Summers stepped closer. Are you warning us? Kirvex's black eyes darted around. My people were integrated 300 years ago. We had no choice. I just thought you should know the truth. Before they could ask more questions, he hurried away. Back in their private room, Dr. Frost activated a device that would block any listening devices. They're not going to negotiate, he said grimly. Captain Summers nodded. No, they're going to invade, no matter what we say here. She touched a hidden communicator in her collar. I need to inform Earth immediately. They need to activate the defense protocols. How long have we really been preparing for this? Dr. Frost asked. Captain Summers' eyes were hard as steel. Longer than even most of our own people know. The people of Harmony Colony had just finished their morning meals when the sky turned bright with flashes of light. Most had never seen a space battle before. They stood outside their homes, looking up in wonder and fear. Susan Lee, Colony Security Chief, knew what was happening. The hegemony had come. She ran to the command center, already shouting orders into her comm unit. All defense teams to stations. This is not a drill. The colony's small defense force fought bravely. Their 6 patrol ships launched quickly, pilots knowing they faced impossible odds. Within 2 hours, all 6 ships were destroyed. The orbital defense platforms lasted only minutes longer. On Earth, emergency alarms sounded in the United Earth Government headquarters in Geneva. President Diane Foster rushed into the Situation Room where military leaders had already gathered. "Report," she demanded. General Olivia Clark stepped forward. Her uniform was perfectly pressed despite being called in the middle of the night. "Madam President, Harmony Colony is under attack. The hegemony sent 30 warships against our outpost. The colony defenses have been overwhelmed. Casualties unknown at this time. We lost contact 20 minutes ago." Fleet Admiral Gregory Powell spoke next. The oldest person in the room, his weathered face showed the weight of his 60 years of military service. "Madam President, we need to make decisions quickly. The hegemony force that hit Harmony is just the beginning. Our long-range sensors show hundreds more ships entering human space." President Foster looked around the room. "What are our options?" The military leaders exchanged glances. Admiral Powell took a deep breath. "Based on the intelligence we've gathered, the hegemony invasion force outmatches our combined fleets by at least 20 to 1. If we fight a conventional war, we will lose." The room fell silent. Then a new voice spoke up. "Perhaps not, Madam President." All eyes turned to Dr. Vincent Martinez. As head of Earth's Defense Technology Commission, he rarely attended military meetings. He was a small man with thick glasses, looking more like a university professor than a defense expert. "Explain," President Foster said. Dr. Martinez stepped to the main display and pressed his palm against the security scanner. The screen changed, showing images no one in the room except the highest military leaders had ever seen before. "Project Safeguard has been operational for decades," he said. "Since the first colony ships left Earth, we've been preparing for this possibility." The display showed massive underground facilities, hidden shipyards, and weapons platforms disguised as small moons or asteroids. "These installations are scattered throughout human space. Most of our own people don't know they exist." General Clark nodded. "Only the highest levels of military command were informed. We couldn't risk any leaks." President Foster studied the images carefully. "And these defenses, are they enough?" Admiral Powell's face was grim, not to win outright, but enough to make conquest very costly for them. Possibly costly enough that they might reconsider. "Operation Defiant Stand," General Clark added. "A defensive strategy designed for exactly this scenario." President Foster walked slowly around the table, thinking. The lives of billions of humans rested on her decision. "How quickly can we evacuate the outer colonies?" "We've already started," Powell said. "Fast ships are on their way to all settlements. But we can't save everyone." The president stopped walking and faced her military leaders. Her voice was firm when she spoke. "We will not surrender our people or our worlds without a fight. Implement Operation Defiant Stand. And God help us all." Across human space, hidden transmitters came to life, sending coded messages to secret installations. On distant moons and asteroids, doors that had never been opened began to slide apart. Ships that had been hidden for generations powered up their engines. Humanity was going to war. Admiral Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the EDF Guardian, watching the tactical display with intense focus. Around the Ta-City system, thousands of red dots appeared, representing the incoming hegemony fleet. Her own forces showed as blue dots, far fewer in number. "Status of the civilian evacuation?" she asked. Her communications officer looked up from his station. 60% complete, Admiral. We need another 3 hours for full evacuation." Rodriguez nodded. She had her orders. Hold long enough for the civilians to escape, then get her people out alive if possible. Looking at the enemy numbers, the second part seemed increasingly unlikely. "All ships, battle formation Delta," she commanded. "Remember your training. These aliens may have more ships, but we know our system better." The human vessels moved into position, forming clusters that the hegemony ships would have to break apart to engage. It was a defensive strategy, designed to slow down the enemy advance rather than stop it completely. On the hegemony command ship, War Commander Greltok watched the human formations with mild interest. Such primitive tactics, he said to his second-in-command. They cluster their ships like frightened animals. Should we adjust our approach, Commander? Asked his officer. Greltok made a dismissive gesture with his upper limbs. No need. Standard conquest pattern will suffice. The hegemony ships moved forward in perfect lines, just as they had done in 100 previous conquests. Their first shots lanced out across space, aimed at the human defense platforms orbiting the colony world. But something unexpected happened. The human ships suddenly accelerated in patterns the hegemony computers couldn't predict. They twisted and turned, making targeting difficult. Admiral Rodriguez smiled grimly as she watched her ships execute the maneuvers they had practiced for years. Her own vessel shook as enemy fire grazed their shields. "Return fire, all batteries," she ordered. The Guardians' weapons blazed to life, along with every other human ship. Their shots were precisely aimed at the weak points of hegemony vessels, weak points that, according to hegemony intelligence, humans shouldn't have known about. On his command ship, Greltok stood up in surprise. "How are they targeting our shield junctions? That information is classified." "Unknown, Commander," his officer replied. "Their weapons are also more powerful than our scans indicated." The battle raged for hours. Human ships fell one by one, but each took several hegemony vessels with them. The evacuation ships streamed away from the colony, protected by the fighting. When her tactical officer reported that the evacuation was complete, Admiral Rodriguez gave her final order. "All ships, execute Jump Plan Omega. Now." Across the battlefield, the remaining human vessels suddenly disappeared into faster-than-light jumps, leaving the hegemony fleet firing at empty space. Greltok was about to declare victory when new alerts sounded across his bridge. "Commander, energy signatures detected in the asteroid belt." Hundreds of hidden platforms suddenly revealed themselves among the asteroids. They had been waiting, perfectly camouflaged, for this exact moment. They opened fire simultaneously, targeting the now disorganized hegemony fleet. "Evasive maneuvers," Greltok shouted, but it was too late for many of his ships. Dozens of hegemony vessels exploded before the surviving platforms were finally silenced. When the battle ended, Greltok stared at the damage report in disbelief. His fleet had lost nearly 200 ships. "These humans," he said slowly, "they fight like cornered predators." His executive officer nodded. They knew they couldn't win, yet they inflicted maximum damage before retreating. Greltok's communication unit chimed. It was High Command, demanding an update. He took a deep breath before answering. "The human colony has been secured," he reported, "but at unexpected cost. These primitives are more dangerous than our intelligence suggested." There was a pause before the response came. "Understood. The secondary intervention fleet has been authorized. Stand by for reinforcements." Greltok's eyes widened. The secondary intervention fleet was only deployed against significant threats. Perhaps these humans were more than merely annoying primitives after all. Meanwhile, Admiral Rodriguez's surviving ships regrouped at a hidden rendezvous point. Despite their losses, there was a sense of grim satisfaction among the crews. They had achieved their objectives. The civilians were safe, and they had shown the hegemony that humanity would not be conquered easily. "Send word to Earth," Rodriguez ordered. "Ta City evacuation successful. Enemy engaged as planned. They're bringing in reinforcements." News of the battle at Ta City spread quickly through the hegemony military command. The losses were unexpected and troubling. After a short meeting, they dispatched the secondary intervention fleet, a massive force of over 8,000 warships. This fleet had conquered entire civilizations before. Surely it would be enough to crush these troublesome humans. Meanwhile, Earth was preparing its true defenses. All across the solar system, hidden military bases that had been secret for generations finally revealed themselves. Commander William Kelly stood in the control room of Titan Facility, the largest of Earth's hidden military installations. Around him, Technicians worked at their stations, activating systems that had been waiting years for this moment. "Begin deactivation of camouflage fields," Kelly ordered. Outside, on the surface of Saturn's largest moon, huge sections of what appeared to be ordinary terrain shimmered and vanished. Underneath were massive hangar doors. They slowly opened, revealing ships unlike anything the public had ever seen. "Operation Thunderbolt is now active," Kelly reported to Earth Command. "All vessels ready for deployment within 6 hours." Similar scenes played out across the solar system. On Jupiter's moons, hidden bases powered up. In Neptune's orbit, weapon platforms that had been disguised as small moons moved into defensive positions. These weren't hastily built defenses. They were the result of careful planning that began over a century ago, when humans first looked to the stars and wondered if they were alone. The answer seemed likely to be no, so they had prepared accordingly. On Mars, General Laura Bennett addressed her troops. The Mars Defense Force was unlike any military unit in human history. They had trained specifically to fight enemies with superior technology. "Today we face the enemy we've prepared for all our lives," she told the assembled soldiers. "The hegemony thinks we're primitive and weak. They're about to learn how wrong they are." Her soldiers wore advanced armor suits that could operate in space or on planetary surfaces. Their weapons were designed to be effective against a wide range of possible alien technologies. "Remember your training," Bennett continued. "We may be outnumbered, but we know things they don't expect us to know. We have technologies they don't believe we possess. Most importantly, we're fighting for our homes, our families, and the future of humanity." The soldiers cheered. They had trained for years in secret, always knowing this day might come. Now they were ready. In Earth's orbit, the defense fleet gathered. Ships emerged from hidden bases on the moon, from underwater facilities on Earth, and from disguised asteroids. Some were small and fast, designed for hit-and-run attacks. Others were massive battleships with weapons that could destroy enemy vessels from incredible distances. Admiral Powell looked at the fleet with pride as reports came in from across the system. "Status of Project Safeguard," he asked his staff. 97% operational, Admiral," replied his aide. "Full combat readiness in 12 hours." Powell nodded. "And the evacuation of civilian populations from potential target areas. Proceeding on schedule. Underground shelters are at 60% capacity." For decades, Earth had been building vast underground shelters that could house billions of people in case of alien attack. Now those shelters were filling with civilians, protected by layers of defenses designed to withstand even the most powerful weapons. President Foster addressed the world on emergency channels. She didn't hide the truth from the people. "A powerful alien force threatens our existence," she said. "But we are not helpless, nor are we unprepared. For generations, we have been building our defenses in secret. Now the time has come to use them." Across Earth and its colonies, people listened with growing hope. Their leaders had not been idle. Humanity had been preparing for this threat, and now they would fight back. The hegemony's secondary intervention fleet moved steadily toward the solar system, unaware that they were heading into a trap generations in the making. The hegemony's secondary intervention fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system, expecting to find a desperate human resistance. Instead, they encountered something that shocked them: a fully prepared defense force with technologies far more advanced than their intelligence had suggested possible. War Commander Greltok stood on his command deck, staring at the sensor readings with disbelief. "These can't be correct," he said. "Scan again." His science officer looked nervous. "Commander, we've scanned 3 times. The readings are accurate. The humans have defensive installations throughout their system, and their weapons technology is unexpected." The first engagement happened near Jupiter. The massive gas giant's many moons had always been perfect hiding places. Now they revealed their secrets as hundreds of defense platforms emerged from hiding. Human ships moved in formations that confused the hegemony targeting systems. "All vessels, engage the enemy," Greltok ordered. "Show these primitives the true might of the hegemony." The Battle of Jupiter became the largest space battle humans had ever fought. Though outnumbered, Earth's forces deployed weapons that shocked the hegemony commanders. Quantum destabilizers tore holes in enemy shields. Gravity weapons pulled hegemony ships off course, making them crash into each other. Relativistic missiles struck with the force of small nuclear weapons. On his flagship, Greltok watched in growing horror as his fleet took heavy losses. How is this possible? He demanded of his intelligence officers. How could our information be so wrong? One of his officers brought up a visual of a human battleship. It was firing weapons that, according to their intelligence, humans shouldn't have developed for another 50 years. Their technology level was deliberately misrepresented. The officer suggested. They wanted us to underestimate them. As the battle reached its peak, Admiral Powell gave the order to execute Operation Hydra. Across hegemony space, hidden human battle groups suddenly appeared, striking at supply lines and communication relay stations. Small, fast ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, fired their weapons, and disappeared again before the hegemony could respond. Greltok received reports of attacks happening hundreds of light years from Earth. Somehow, humans have positioned ships throughout hegemony territory without being detected, cut off from reinforcements and resupply. His communications officer reported. Multiple relay stations destroyed. Impossible. Greltok slammed his fist on the console. These humans were barely space-capable just decades ago. The battle continued for hours. Hegemony ships still had the advantage of numbers, but they were fighting an enemy who seemed to know all their weaknesses. Human vessels targeted specific systems on hegemony ships, disabling them with precision strikes rather than trying to destroy them outright. When Greltok finally ordered a retreat, nearly a third of his mighty fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The rest pulled back to regroup, leaving the Jupiter system in human hands. On the hegemony capital world, the news of the battle caused chaos in the Grand Council. High Counselor Scythera faced angry questions from other council members. "You assured us this was a minor operation against a primitive species," the Grand Strategist accused, pointing a long blue finger at Scythera. "Yet our secondary intervention fleet has been decimated." Scythera's black eyes showed his fear. The humans concealed their true capabilities. They'd wanted us to underestimate them. Or our intelligence failed spectacularly, another counselor said. Either way, this minor operation has become a major problem. The Grand Strategist studied the battle reports. These humans used technologies we believed were theoretical. Their tactics show a deep understanding of our weaknesses. This was not luck. They have been preparing for interstellar war for generations. Back in the solar system, Admiral Powell addressed the combined human fleet. His weathered face showed on screens throughout thousands of ships. "We have won the first true battle," he said, "but the war has just begun. The hegemony will return with even greater numbers. We must be ready." Earth's citizens watched recordings of the battle with a mixture of pride and fear. They had stood against the invaders and prevailed. But everyone knew the hegemony would not accept defeat easily. With the hegemony forces pushed back and regrouping, Earth's military leaders gathered in the underground war room beneath Geneva. The mood was cautiously optimistic as Admiral Powell and General Clark presented their next strategy. "We've shown them we can defend our territory," Powell said, pointing to the tactical display showing the solar system. "Now we need to demonstrate that attacking Earth carries unacceptable costs." President Foster frowned. "You're suggesting we take the fight to them?" General Clark nodded. "Yes, Madam President. A defensive war gives them time to bring in more forces. We need to strike key targets in their territory to disrupt their ability to continue the war." The plan they outlined was bold. Human forces would target Hegemony Forward Base Krell-9, an important logistics hub that supplied the invasion fleets. The base was deep in hegemony space, but intelligence suggested its defenses were focused outward, not expecting an attack from within. Colonel Nathan Reed was selected to lead the mission. A tall man with a quiet voice and steady hands, Reed had specialized training in covert operations. His team consisted of 50 soldiers with advanced infiltration skills. "We'll insert behind their lines using the new stealth ships," Reed explained to his team. "While Earth forces engage their fleet as a distraction, we'll infiltrate the command structure and disable their defenses from within." 2 days later, the operation began. A battle group of human ships jumped into the Krell system, immediately engaging the hegemony defense fleet. As the aliens focused on the obvious threat, 3 small black ships slipped through their sensor net, invisible to detection. Reed's team boarded the station using access codes obtained from captured hegemony data. Dressed in armor that mimicked hegemony security forces, they moved through the station with practiced efficiency. "Remember, minimal casualties," Reed told his team. "We're here for the intelligence and to destroy the facility, not to kill unnecessarily." The plan worked better than expected. They reached the command center and took control before the hegemony officers realized what was happening. Reed downloaded vast amounts of strategic data while his engineers planted charges at key structural points. When they left 2 hours later, the base was crippled beyond repair, and the human battle group jumped away, having inflicted serious damage on the defending fleet. Back on Earth, Dr. Frost worked with captured hegemony officers to understand their political structure. The aliens were surprised by his respectful treatment and gradually became more cooperative. "Your empire is built on fear," Frost said to a hegemony captain named Mechlor. "The subject species obey because they believe resistance is futile." Mechlor's black eyes narrowed. "It is futile. The hegemony has never been defeated." "Until now," Frost replied gently. "What happens when the subject species learn that the hegemony can be fought, that humans have successfully resisted?" The alien looked away. "There have been murmurs of discontent for generations. Many species remember their freedom." This information proved invaluable. Frost discovered that several subjugated species have been waiting for an opportunity to rebel. The hegemony's stability relied entirely on its reputation for inevitable victory. Armed with this knowledge, Earth forces began a series of precision strikes against key hegemony military installations. They carefully avoided civilian targets, demonstrating both their power and their restraint. After each successful operation, they broadcast the same message on all frequencies: "Humanity desires peace, but we will not be conquered." These broadcasts reached not just hegemony forces, but the ears of every subjugated species. For the first time in centuries, there was hope that the mighty hegemony could be opposed. On the hegemony capital world, the Grand Council convened an emergency session. Reports from the front lines had become increasingly alarming. The human counteroffensive wasn't just stopping their advance, it was threatening the stability of the entire hegemony. High Counselor Skthera faced severe criticism from all sides. "You claimed integrating these humans would be routine," one elder counselor said angrily. "Now they threaten our core worlds." The Grand Strategist's report made the situation clear. The humans are not just fighting for their own freedom. They are becoming a symbol of resistance to all our subject species. If we cannot defeat them quickly, everything we have built over millennia may unravel. They had only one option left: the Grand Armada, the full might of the hegemony military, never before assembled in one place. The hegemony made its final desperate move. For the first time in its long history, the Grand Armada was fully assembled. Over 50,000 warships, gathered from across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. It was a force capable of destroying entire planets, designed to crush any opposition with overwhelming power. War Commander Greltok was given command of this massive fleet. Despite his recent defeat at Jupiter, the Council believed his first-hand experience fighting humans made him the best choice. "This time, we will erase their civilization completely," Greltok told his officers as the fleet prepared to jump to the solar system. "No more measured responses, no more underestimation. We will crush these humans and make an example that will secure our dominance for millennia." The officers cheered, but some noticed a hint of doubt in their commander's eyes. He had seen the humans fight. He knew this would not be easy, regardless of their numbers. The Grand Armada arrived at the edge of the solar system in a spectacular display of power. Thousands upon thousands of ships emerged from faster-than-light travel, forming battle groups so vast they could be seen with the naked eye from distant planets. Greltok expected to find humanity's remaining forces gathered around Earth for a last stand. Instead, his scouts reported that the human defensive fleet seemed no smaller than in previous engagements. Even more troubling, intercepted communications suggested human forces were still active elsewhere in space, attacking hegemony supply lines. How is this possible? Greltok demanded. We've committed nearly every ship in the hegemony. Where are they getting these forces? The final battle began as the Grand Armada moved toward Earth. The humans fought with unexpected ferocity. Their ships used tactics Greltok had never seen before, seemingly unafraid of the overwhelming numbers they faced. Most concerning of all, fresh human reinforcements continued to arrive from hidden bases throughout the system. For every human ship destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. After 12 hours of battle, the unthinkable happened. The Grand Armada's losses mounted beyond acceptable levels. Ships were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. The human forces seemed inexhaustible. We've lost over 9,000 vessels, Greltok's executive officer reported, his voice shaking. At current rates, we'll lose combat effectiveness in less than 6 hours. Greltok stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The mighty hegemony, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, was losing to a species that had barely reached the stars. Open a channel to the human command, he said finally. Request a parley. Admiral Powell agreed to meet aboard a neutral station at the edge of the battle zone. When Greltok arrived with his staff, he expected to dictate terms for humanity's surrender. The battle had been costly, but surely the humans knew they couldn't withstand the full might of the hegemony forever. Instead, Powell offered terms for the hegemony's withdrawal. This is absurd, Greltok protested. We brought our Grand Armada, the full military might of the hegemony. You cannot hope to prevail. Admiral Powell studied the alien commander with something like pity in his eyes. You misunderstand, Commander. What you faced today was our home defense fleet. We've been holding back our offensive capabilities. With a gesture, Powell activated a holographic display. It showed hundreds of previously undisclosed human military installations and shipyards spread across multiple star systems. Thousands of vessels stood ready, many of designs the hegemony had never encountered. Our response has been measured, Powell continued calmly. We sought to end this conflict with minimal loss of life on both sides. But make no mistake, what you faced so far wasn't our full army. It wasn't even close. Greltok felt the color drain from his face as he finally understood. The intelligence reports had catastrophically underestimated humanity. The species they'd dismissed as primitive had been quietly preparing for interstellar conflict for generations. Why? He asked finally. Why build such military power in secret? Because the universe is vast and unknown, Powell replied simply. We hoped for peace but prepared for war. That preparation saved us. The peace treaty that followed reshaped galactic politics forever. The hegemony recognized Earth's sovereignty and withdrew from human space. Inspired by humanity's example, several subjugated species successfully petitioned for independence. In the hegemony historical archives, a new entry was recorded, the human miscalculation. It served as a warning to future generations about the danger of underestimating other species. And on Earth, humanity looked to the stars with new confidence. They had faced their first great interstellar challenge and survived.